Welcome to The Connection Code, a podcast where we explore the relationships that make your life and work just a little bit better.
Hi, I'm Jeana Anderson Cohen. I started a health and wellness media company that tricks adults into making friends called A Sweat Life. And I'm also building a social gathering and event space in New Buffalo, Michigan called Petite Acres. I am obsessed with friendship gathering and connection.
Hi, I'm Rachel Gilman-Rischel. I run a PR firm called 3PR focused on healthy food brands. And I'm also deeply obsessed with introductions and connecting people that I think should know each other.
And today, Rachel, we are talking about a big topic that we've actually heard people ask us about, and that is, why is it so hard to maintain friendships in adulthood? So we're going to be deep diving into this big question throughout this conversation. I'll Sherpa us through it. I think the biggest thing that we want to talk about is that friendships are hard for a lot of reasons, some that are emotional and some that are logistical. And
Yes.
So we'll talk through all of it. Rachel, why do you think friendship's hard?
Friendship is hard because at this stage of life, as adults, we have more barriers than ease. And we'll talk about proximity and scheduling and all of those things. But in adulthood, you just have a lot of competing priorities. And while it would be so much more fun to hang out with your friends endlessly, you have to play calendar Jenga and figure out how it all slots together. So I think it's helpful to address the elephant in the room, which is that we all want better and stronger friendships, and life is not structured to make it seamless.
Yeah. So we'll talk about why friendships drift, why friendships break, and the little friendship killers, these invisible little friendship killers that maybe you don't account for.
The paper cuts, if you will.
Yeah, 1,000 of those, and friendship, she gone. Let's talk first and foremost about a reason friendships drift: life stage and lifestyle difference. Sometimes it's not a conflict, it's a family situation, it's a financial situation, it's energy levels, or just realities of life causing a little drift. So, Rachel, have you ever stopped or seen a friendship drift because your lives stopped looking the same?
Yes. Yes, Jeana, that is true.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this in a very specific way. And I'm going to go through the lens of being a bridesmaid. I have been a bridesmaid, I think 15 times. And a few of those were sister-in-laws, but that's a number of friends. And I would say the first time I was a bridesmaid was probably 23 or 24. I had a friend get married on the younger side, and then I wrapped it up with sister-in-laws in the last couple of years. But what is remarkable to me looking back is that these are friends of mine that said, you are so important to me and our friendship is so seminal that I want you standing by my side as I say my vows and embark on this next life stage. I would call this like the Mount Rushmore of friendship. And I realized that 4 of those bridesmaids I'm not even in touch with anymore. And no falling out, no hard feelings. I would say of those 4, maybe there's a birthday text, not even every single year. And then 1, it's a Facebook like here and there. So it really goes to show that friendships can have seasons, and you can cherish somebody so much that they're in your wedding photos and they're part of your bridesmaid party. And then years later, you have no communication. And so I think this can happen at, again, multiple life stages. It happened when I was dating and my friends were newlyweds. It happened when I was a newlywed and they were new parents. It happened when people moved to the suburbs and I chose to stay in the city. And again, I kind of felt this friction, if you will, or this untethering when I stayed a working parent and some of my friends were stay-at-home moms, not because there was a better path by any means, but we just stopped having similar existences. And a final story is I remember one night, it was St. Patrick's Day. I went out with 2 friends of mine. We've been friends for many years. We were all parents at this point. They were stay at home. I was working. And I think we all just wanted to get a little drunk and be out and recapture some of the magic of younger days. So we're at dinner and we're having margaritas and they're chatting about their kids and families and all this stuff. And I go, you guys, let's do something different. Let's not talk about our kids. And I'm not even kidding. No. They go, well, then what would we talk about?
Oh, no.
And I thought, no, no, I love my kids too. I just don't want them to always be the focal point of all my conversation out in the world. And at that juncture, their kids took up a large chunk of their mental energy and
Mhm.
what they were willing to communicate about. And I was not on that same page. But I want to
Mm,
turn it
mhm.
back to you. I'm sure you've gone through iterations of this.
Yeah, so I'm on the older side of my friends to have kids. So uh I've seen people have children while Justin and I were still dinking it up in the city, and
Double income,
we
no kids.
yep. And we would maybe get the first birthday invitation, but then after the first birthday, it's this sort of like unspoken thing. I think what our friends were doing was trying to save us from something that would maybe feel inconvenient, like coming to their home and being a part of a birthday party. But to us, it was like, this is an important milestone to you. We want to be a part of it. So I think that there are assumptions of almost like what your friends want to be a part of as your lifestyles shift too. So we saw that a lot over the past couple years as kids started getting older, and we wanted to be a part of their lives. So we would just say like, we like your kids and we would love to see them, so don't think like we don't want to come or travel or see them.
Okay, good for you. So you would actually articulate it and say, please
Yeah,
don't feel like you're protecting us or that we would
right,
be bored at this birthday party. We
right.
want to participate.
Yeah, we like your kids. No, and I always like, if I am at it if I am at a gathering with adults and children, it is almost certain that I will be hanging out with the children, because I think they are just very insightful creatures who are a lot of fun. Um, so it's a bummer not to be around kids. So I would like rather spend time with the kids anyway.
You're a
And
good
I
egg
think
like that.
another good example, Rachel, too, is just workplace shifts. When you leave a workplace, you almost always lose your workplace friends. So I think that is a true issue of convenience, because you're seeing each other every single day. Maybe you take one or two along with you to your next life, but there are some great acquaintances or people you'd have a laugh with and a giggle, and maybe they just don't come with you. But that might be a seasonality and a lifestyle shift thing. I'm gonna go to geography and logistics, Rachel. What?
I feel like we're playing Jeopardy. Moving on.
Yeah,
Yes.
geography and logistics for 500, please, Rachel. Um, so I think we're seeing in people who are our age, and there's a spread between us, but we're the same generation. Like we tend to live. Dogs, hold on. There's sawing outside as well. Can you hear the sawing?
I can't hear the sighing.
Okay, excellent. Um, so there's something that's happened in our generation. People tend to move far away from home, which generally means at some point you're going to relocate or find new friends. And a lot of friendship is proximity and
Yes.
convenience, seeing each other after work or bumping into each other, a shared routine. So it often becomes harder to sustain once you aren't within a geographic area of convenience. So, how much of friendship to you, Rachel, is convenience?
I hate that the answer is that proximity is paramount. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You'd like to think that your relationships flourish and can be sustained just because you feel very connected to them. But it's
Mhm.
undeniable that there is an amount of ease when you can run into people, whether that's working in the same environment, living in the same neighborhood, having like a social place that you meet up all the time. Um, and so I think the challenge of adulthood and truly like the disappointment is that you have to work pretty hard to see your friends, or you have to put rituals and traditions in place
Yeah.
so that you don't go too long without seeing each other. I mean, I see my friend Kirby almost every Friday because we'll take a workout class together and we'll book a coffee beforehand. But without that, we're not going to intersect out in the world.
Yeah. And
Sorry,
I
hold
think
on one second. I got a beep and now a ring.
beep and a ring, important.
And I'm on Do Not Disturb. Okay, geez.
That usually means it's someone important.
It's my sister, but it's to
Okay.
talk about Lily. It's not
Okay.
like something paramount.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm like I was all ready to give you an example of the thing prior. And so then my head was, I wasn't ready to answer this question very well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
That's
trying to
okay.
skip for time.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Where do we leave off?
Where do we go from here? Okay. So your friend Kirby and you take a workout class every Friday.
Yes. And we went, okay, ready, I'm coming back. Without putting that on the calendar and having something that we can rely on, we just wouldn't intersect in the world. And I think that's why I have this long-term goal of living in a Palm Springs commune when I retire. And I want all my friends around me in little homes, and we can just spend time together as if we were at camp in our 70s.
I think, Rachel, you're hitting on one of the secrets for all of these friendship hurdles. Ritual. There is something to be said about ritual, whether it's once a quarter, once a year, or once a week. Committing to a ritual with a friend is a friendship saver. So if there's hitting back on these two sort of drifters, the geography and convenience or lifestyle, if you were leaving a job or if you were sort of shifting lifestyles, you are not a parent, your friends are a parent. If you commit to a ritual with that friend, or commit to a trip with your friend who lives somewhere else, that is something that can sustain a friendship that might have a harder time surviving.
Jeana, I feel like you're very good at holding on to people, and you are a rituals person. So what do you do to avoid the proximity curse, especially now that you're living in Michigan?
I try to gather multiple people whenever I am somewhere where friends from my old life are. I also try not to be too precious about plans and timing, because I am on such a different schedule than other people. I'm coming in and out of Chicago where a lot of my friends live. And when I am able to make the drive might be different than when people are able to make plans. So it might be the middle of the week, the middle of the day. Whereas a lot of my friends are able to make plans on evenings and weekends. And at this point, my life is pretty busy on evenings and weekends. So I have to sort of be really flexible with the people who I'm trying to make plans with and make as many plans at once as possible. And then also if a friend is near me and they mention that they're going to be in the region, they want to see me, I say yes, I figure it out. And I make sure that we get to at least spend a little time together.
I think what you do well is almost an open house mentality, but about friendship, as in people are welcome. Here's where I'll be. I am flexible and willing to make sure that our schedules collide so that we can spend time together. You're not super precious. It has to be this dinner at this time. It's sort of I'm in the West Loop for this many hours. Let's find each other.
I would love to hold office hours, honestly. That sounds very
friendship hours.
Yeah, it sounds a little self-important, but it's more all of my friends are here, swoop in and say hello.
I think there's something to it of I'm going to be plopped at this one place for a long stretch. So if you can come by at any increment and see me, I would love it.
Yeah. And I won't be too determined to work while that's happening.
I know. I've been thinking about college a lot lately, maybe because people are graduating and I feel like it was so far in the rearview mirror. But it was truly the last time where friendship was pretty much frictionless because you lived with your friends. Everywhere you went were your friends. The entire community were your people. And so the world around you was conspiring to support friendship.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm also watching the show Off Campus.
Oh, yeah.
/ devouring the show. But it does bring back these ideas of being on a campus where your entire life is set up to spend time with people you really enjoy. And now in my 40s with kids and a job and all this stuff, I feel like I just have to do so much labor to see the people I enjoy.
Well, I also think the thing that we forget about what you just named, Rachel, college, is that there are moments of new friendship constantly.
Yes.
Because it's not just when you get to college. When you get to college is important and impactful for meeting people and making new friends, but it's also the start of every new semester. Every time you get a new job, every time you join a new club, when you study abroad, there's a new cohort of friends. And so throughout that time, as we've talked about before, you're socially promiscuous. You are gathering friends. And by by the time we get to that post-college life, we forget that that was a series of ingredients that gave us the opportunity to make friends. And so what we're talking about right now is like the removal of those ingredients, the removal of ease, the removal of proximity, the removal of all being at the exact same stage of your life, like you are in college. But you can manufacture that in adulthood. You absolutely can manufacture that, but you cannot forget to continue to make new friends. If you forget to continue to make new friends, all you will notice is that your friends are slowly dropping off, which is
Mhm.
a fact of life. You can hold on to a lot of your friends, but people will move, their lives will change, their priorities will change. And so it's so important to go to new places, join new clubs, talk to new people, maybe make a vacation friend, which
Yes.
Rachel and I love. Um, and as you go through those processes of talking to people and sharing your information, follow up and actually ask them to be a friend or get a coffee. You don't have to actually say, like, will you be my friend? You can ask them to get a coffee because you think that they're great.
Yes, I think refreshing the roster is healthy because there are some people that might have a permanent place on it, but there are going to
Mhm.
be people where there's attrition. I mean, when I stood up in someone's wedding, I didn't think, oh, 10 to 15 years from now, we're not going to speak. I mean, that would have
Mhm.
been crushing to think way back then.
Right.
And again, no big fights, nothing transpired except just life diverging.
Yeah.
And so you and I agree, you have to make room for new people to come in.
Yes. Yeah. What is it? The Girl Scouts make new friends, but keep the old. Is that
One is silver and the other is
the other?
gold. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rachel, I want to move on to why friendship can break. Do you want to come with me on that journey?
I do. I do. It's a tough one, but it's
It is.
part of relationships.
It really is. And a lot of friendships don't really have that like dramatic explosion. I know we've both experienced friendship breakups to varying degrees where we got our little friendship hearts broken. But a lot of times friendships erode slowly through like assumptions or not having that hard conversation or unmet expectations that just never get said. Um, so let's talk first and foremost about the emotional and communication challenge. So a lot of friendships have that slow erode, but most adult friendships and most adults were never taught to survive conflict or disappointment.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay. As I saw this, I had a memory surface, like a really
mhm.
unpleasant friend memory. And the only
Oh,
thing I'm glad about is that there aren't that many that come to mind, but
yeah.
this one was instructive. So
Mhm.
I think this was probably in my later 20s,
Yeah.
but I had a friend who moved to New York and we had a friend in Chicago. The three of us were friends.
Mhm.
And we realized that the two Chicago girls, me and the other one, were going to be in New
Mhm.
York at the same time. So we were going to make a dinner plan, the three of us.
Mhm.
And the Chicago friend intended to text the New York friend and say, let's have dinner without Rachel. But the
Oh
Chicago friend
no.
accidentally texted that to me. And
Oh no.
I know, Jeana, it was so painful because it
Yeah.
was and on multiple fronts. It was painful that she had this sentiment that she would
Yeah.
have rather seen the New York friend without me. That hurts. But it was more painful that she put it in writing and I had to
Yeah.
receive it. And I wrote her back and I said, I don't think you intended
You
to send
meant.
this to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she felt terrible. And I
Yep.
pulled away because I was bruised.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting together and sort of moving through it to an extent. But I will say, to me, that was the erosion. I was like, you know
Mhm.
what? If somebody feels that territorial and couldn't make room for me to join this dinner, or couldn't even say to me, hey, I'd really like to have my own time with the New York
Yeah.
friend. Could we plan something separate? It
Mhm.
was just so petty and catty that I
Mhm.
I was like, maybe this isn't a relationship that's really suited for the long run. And
Yeah.
this wasn't the only instance where we'd had a little bit of a snafu. And so I would say, on perfectly fine terms today, again, life has diverged. All three of us live in different places. But it was a painful moment in my 20s to be like, oh, I don't think this friendship is rock solid. And in fact,
Yeah.
now I have to feel really vulnerable that maybe there's communication about me that I wasn't privy to
Yeah.
before.
I will say nothing feels worse than realizing you've been talked about. And in that case, we hear a lot of like group text, terrifying stories about kids in middle school and high school and the mistaken send to the full group or the mistaken send to the wrong text. Feels awful. But even finding out like this person said this thing about you, that's the moment when you stop trusting someone, when you don't feel safe
Yes.
talking to them, or you don't feel safe being yourself around them. You just put a little space there, or a lot of space, depending.
And I'm going to ask you the same thing, but I just also want to say, I know that I have misstepped too, right? There
Yeah.
have been times where I have said things I shouldn't say, or
Yeah.
I vented about something. I think
Mhm.
the reality of friendship, particularly group friendship, especially with history, is that there's
Yeah.
going to be moments where friends commiserate or vent or have some thoughts on another friend. And that's, I
Mhm.
try not to think about the fact that sometimes I'm probably the thing that's being discussed because I'm
Yeah.
engaging in it at times. And there are moments where there's genuine concern. There's moments where it's frustration. I mean, I get that's part of the world, but it
Yeah.
in that instance was really, really acutely painful.
Yeah.
And it did contribute, I think, to the erosion of the relationship. I hope you
Mhm.
don't have a similar example, but I am curious how this has played out for you,
Well, I'm pretty quick to have a hard conversation. Um,
which I
if
respect about you.
if my feelings are hurt, or if someone in my life has been hurt by a situation. And I will say, I'm trying to delicately talk about this because the person who this is about, like I've in some ways feel terrible, in other ways don't. But there was an incident leading up to a big event in my life, and someone's partner behaved very badly before the big event in my life, and
Oh,
we had to uninvite my friend's partner from the big event in my life. And it was unovercomable as as a friendship moment, and just in the group dynamic, and in my friendship with the person, not just with their partner too. But I felt it was the right thing to do, given the severity of the bad behavior. I
mm.
know I'm being so vague here, but
No, no, I just feel for you because it's like
yeah,
when it's not even the friend, it's their partner, but they
yeah,
sort of have to bear the brunt of it.
they have to bear the brunt of it. And also, you sort of know, like, if you're having a conversation with someone about their partner, it's very unlikely that they're going to take it well. And even if they do take it well, there's not any coming back from it most of the time, as long as they are still with that person. So you sort of have to understand, like, if the issue in your friendship is about the partner and you have the conversation, you have to know, like, space will be a result. Maybe permanent space, maybe very, very distant space, but space is a result. So that's one where, like, I decided it was important to have that hard conversation before that big event, and then just we never fully came back.
I I feel for you that this happened and it
Yeah.
sounds awful, but the part I want to credit you with is it's taken me a very long time to be able to have difficult conversations. I don't think I have any mastery of it, and I think I'd
Mhm.
rather avoid if possible sometimes. But
Mhm.
it doesn't really serve a friendship to pretend something
Yeah.
bad didn't bother you or to
Right.
compartmentalize it because it's just going to fester. And
Mhm.
again, I think I applaud you for having to tell this person it wasn't
Ugh.
okay and doing the difficult thing rather than compromising your own comfort or your own
Mhm.
experience just to avoid it.
Yeah. It sucked. I'll also say, Rachel, as I heard you talking, I was thinking about a conversation we had recently because I felt emotional after an interaction with a person, and I came to you with it. I came to you with, like, the emotion after the interaction, and I apologized for sharing anything about someone else because I know that it was I I sort of felt like, because I was talking about someone at all, I felt really bad about it. And you were like, "You're feeling an emotion. I am your friend. You're not saying something bad about the person. You're saying how you feel."
Wait, that's a great example. And I think it's
Mhm.
worth dissecting for a second.
Yeah.
we have a mutual friend
Mhm.
and you had a moment that just didn't sit well. And you were
Mhm.
only telling me how it landed for you. It was not a critique of the person. It was saying, I felt this.
I felt
And then
that.
I could
Yeah.
tell you felt really sheepish and like
Yeah.
regretted even bringing it up.
I
Whereas I wanted to
hate.
say, we're
Yeah.
friends. We're friends. This doesn't
Mhm.
color my opinion of this person. I just want to support you
Yeah.
and validate your feelings. So it's like there's this threading of the needle where sometimes you do need to be able to share with one friend in interaction with another,
Yeah.
but you want to do so in a way that preserves all the relationships involved.
Yeah. And that's why I felt the need to thread that needle, because I didn't want to, you know how sometimes if you're sharing something that makes you feel bad, sometimes you have to think about the intent. What is my intent? Is my intent in this conversation to have my feelings validated, or is my intent in this conversation to get this person on my team? like, like, like
Yeah, yeah.
we all are mad. Like, I think if that's your intention in a mutual friendship situation, maybe don't bring in another friend to have the conversation until you're more cool and calm and can have more of a please validate my feelings conversation. Because I think where I try to draw the line is this talking shit? or or is or is this saying my feelings out loud?
It's an important distinction. It can be blurry. I am currently enmeshed in a little bit of a petty situation that I'm not the most proud of right
Mhm.
now. And I'm trying to just move through it and keep asking myself, would I feel good if I was the other person hearing this?
Yeah.
Are my feelings my own, or am I getting, caught up in some swirl? There's
Mhm.
just, I will tell you, I thought when I was a kid that adults didn't have drama. And then I realized that they do. And I think it's just part of life is accepting that relationships are going to have bumpy, tumultuous moments, but the
Mhm.
best you can do is just try to move through them, or in your case, address the conflict, or just
Yeah.
check yourself and be like, I'm not behaving in a way I feel incredibly proud
Yeah.
of. A pettier side of me is emerging. I don't really want to do that.
I need to calm down before I have a conversation. Okay, let's talk about what keeps friendship alive. We've shared the hurdles, we shared the obstacles. We know, like, not having the hard conversations, sometimes having the hard conversations can end a friendship. We know that proximity adds challenge, but also life stage. Let's start with the friendships that last, and they're built on repair, as we heard from some lovely guests, flexibility, vulnerability, and recurring rituals, as well as the willingness to keep showing up through changing seasons. So, first and foremost, Rachel, what habits keep friendships alive?
So, as I was reading over this, I thought of a quote I heard yesterday that I just love. It's about marriage, but I think it's also applicable. Somebody
What is
asked
this?
Paul Newman, the actor, how he and his wife, Joanne, had been married for so many years and stayed together. And he said, it's easy. We just never wanted to get divorced at the same time. And I love that because it doesn't mean marriage is easy, and it
Yeah.
doesn't mean friendship is easy, especially
Yeah.
if it's long distance. But I think as long as you and your long distance friend or your longtime friend don't want to break up at the same time, the relationship can endure. And more of what
Mhm.
I mean is that it's not going to be 50-50 all the time. Like
Yeah.
there will be times, let's make us the hypothetical.
Sure.
There might be times where I'm leaning in hard at our friendship. I'm calling you more. I'm texting you. I'm more dialed into your life. And you're just busy heads down opening petite acres. But then
Right
maybe
now.
there's another, like right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
And I'm
right now.
not saying you're doing that
Yeah.
by any
I'm
means.
trying my
And,
best.
oh my God, Jeana, no,
I'm
you're
just kidding. I'm
amazing.
just
This
kidding.
is a hypothetical. And then
Hypothetical.
there might be another season where like a year from now, I have something going on where I just like don't have any bandwidth, but you're doing a good job of just like staying in the picture and trying to grab
Mhm.
dinner when we can and keeping it going. So
Mhm.
I think you can hold on to relationships that are meaningful as long as at
Mhm.
least at one point or another, somebody's doing a little more driving if it can't be
Mhm.
completely equal. And then the other thing I was going to say, well, there's three other tips I had. One is that you have to make the plans. So whether
Mhm.
that's an annual girls trip or a weekend at a cabin, or I'm just going to come visit you and stay with you for 2 nights, I think making the commitment to see each other face to face is tantamount. You just
Yeah.
need to be in the room together. And then the spontaneity, like just text somebody when you're thinking of them. If a memory
Mhm.
pops up on your phone, send the memory. be like, I'm going for a walk. Can I call you? We could do a walk and talk. There's just ways to, I think, sort of keep the spark alive, except in a
Yeah.
platonic relationship.
Yeah. And I think you can't rely on technology for keeping a friendship alive. If you see somebody's life update on social media or their job update or whatever, like that's not enough. That's the knowledge isn't the relationship. The relationship
Yes.
is work. So you have to, if you're getting your information from social media, take it and do something with it. Like, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. Let me take you out for a drink, a mocktail, a workout, whatever to celebrate.
Yes. Wait, Jeana, I'm going to ask about a pet peeve with social media real quick.
Okay.
Does it drive you crazy, or is this just my hang up, where if it's your birthday or something big happens on social media and you share it and you can see who views your story, and people that you know well don't say anything, like don't even acknowledge? You're like, you just looked at the fact that it's my birthday or anniversary or I got a promotion, I'm just whatever that is, and just breezed on by.
I definitely feel like that is something that gets my gears grinding.
So it's
You're
not
like,
just me.
no, it's not just you. I think
Okay.
the trick is to not look at who views your stories, because that can save you a lot of heartache.
That's a good point.
I currently operate 3 social media accounts, Rachel, so it's too many.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But you're right. Keeping tabs on social media is not the equivalent of being a good friend. It's like all
Mhm.
sugar, no substance.
Absolutely. It's Diet Coke. Uh,
She's just going to give you a stomach ache if you're me.
I know. Rachel, you mentioned how friendships survive busy seasons, but what I want to point out in what you said there is it's not about always expecting someone to carry the equal part of the load. It's more about thinking, what can I do in this season? And sort of gauging your friends' time commitment, your friend's ability to share time with you, and adjusting your expectations to those times, which is very similar to a marriage.
Because you're so good, I think, at engaging in the conversations around your feelings, have you ever had to tell a friend, I feel like I'm doing a disproportionate amount to keep this friendship going, and I'd love if you could do more?
I I don't know if I've personally had that conversation, but I do feel like I I don't I I wouldn't put it past me to have that conversation with someone, but I also think like I'm pretty good at empathizing with people where they are in life, and or if not empathizing, asking like, are you busy right now? Asking is a really nice way to smash your own expectations, because if the thing you're thinking in your head is, I'm not hearing from them enough, they don't care about me, I wasn't invited to that dinner, um asking like, what's going on in your life, how was that dinner, who are you spending your time with lately, could be a good source of like, I'm spending my time with a lot of parents right now because it's all I can wrap my mind around.
I agree.
Okay, Rachel, we've talked a lot about the things that make friendship more memorable, make rituals for friendship. What is a way that someone can become unforgettable as a friend?
I love the framing of this question. Just somebody who has permanence in your life. And it made me think of 3 different questions you could ask yourself if somebody meets the bar of unforgettable, or the questions I ask myself.
Mhm.
First one is, do I feel loved? Do they
Mm.
really care about me? The second question is, do I feel at home with them? Can I show up as any version of myself and it's accepted and it's welcomed? And then last, can we pick up where we left off, even if it's been a while? Because the reality we keep circling is that at this stage of life, you might go a few years without seeing that friend face to face. You could go months without talking. Is there a generosity of spirit in the friendship where you could call them or see them and it's okay and you can resume? And if so, I think that makes an unforgettable friend.
Yeah, I love that. I also think, to tack on, there's some validity to the love languages.
Yes.
I think to be an unforgettable friend is to speak your friend's love language. So to um, share gifts with them if that's what really makes them feel seen, to show up for them if quality time is what is important to them, um, I mean, it might not always be touch, but some friends like to cuddle.
Yes. Wait, Jeana, here's a twist on it for you. Do
Okay.
you think being an unforgettable friend, again, because that's such a big way of saying it, requires epic gestures or doing some big grand
Oh,
thing? Is it the friend that surprises you across the country or pulls out all the stops for you in some certain way, or is unforgettable more about the daily work or just the consistent effort to show up?
I think friendship, like relationships, are seasoned by those big moments, but I think like the real nuts and bolts of friendship are the everyday checking in, the everyday like understanding who you are as a person. I think the answer is both, um, both and. But it's more about the rituals, the understanding of your friend and seeing them for who they truly are. What
Can
about
I
you?
share a funny thing that just came to mind? I was
Please.
thinking through grand gestures, and some friends have done wonderful ones. Like senior year,
Yeah.
my high school best friend Christy surprised me with Tom Petty tickets as a graduation present, and
Oh,
we just went together and had a great time at the show. And she knows I hate driving at night and can't find anything, so she drove, so
to
I
this
didn't have
day.
to worry. To this day, Gina, of
Okay.
course.
Okay.
But the unforgettable thing is, I have this friend Lindsay who we've been like sister friends since fourth grade.
Mhm.
And Lindsay's mom would always buy her really great clothes. She was an only child, and her mom cared that Lindsay looked cool. And my mom cared not at all. And Lindsay was taller than I was. So, what she would do for me is when she grew out of her really cool clothes, like her Girbaud jeans that I was
Oh
coveting,
God. Oh
she would
God.
make sure the minute they didn't fit her to give me all those clothes so that I could feel cool and have them in my wardrobe. And when you're in seventh grade, I think that's pretty unforgettable.
Yeah. Can you spell Jabot?
You didn't have your that wait, I know I'm
Oh no.
older, so it
No,
probably
no, no.
wasn't
Can I
in.
said can you spell Jabot? Because
Yeah, I can.
yep, to this day.
Girbaud, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Jabot jeans were definitely a thing when I was a youth. And then it was this interesting cycling in of like different like streetwear, like Jinko jeans. Do I those
Wait,
had a
you're
moment.
taking me back.
I
It
know.
just it hit my junior high so hard, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden there were all these brands that I wanted, and my parents were less than interested in
Yeah.
buying them. So my unforgettable friend who grew faster would stock my closet.
Oh, that's so nice. What a hero. What a hero. I think I've talked about my friend Brittany in the past, but I think when someone like stands up for you or is there for you in a
Yes.
moment when maybe like you would feel really alone also makes them unforgettable. My friend Brittany in high school, there was I've talked about this before, but I have SESs, like not a soft lisp, if you will, but when I had braces, most notably a bar across the roof of my mouth, they were much essier. And a boy made fun of it, said it out loud in the way that high school boys love to do. And she said, "No, you can't say that about her." And it was the end of the conversation because Brittany was the cool girl. She was the pretty girl, but she also used that power for good. And I'll never forget it. I'll do anything for Brittany.
I love that story because
Yeah.
I think it is so generous in high school when everybody's
Yeah.
kind of worried about their social capital to stand up for somebody else in a vulnerable
Yeah.
moment.
She was a good kid. So looking back on that, I was like, her parents did a good job. She was a good kid. Like she
Yes.
was a good kid who cared about right and wrong. Um, Rachel, I have a show and tell for us that I think will actually segue really nicely into one other topic I wanted to talk about.
Bring it forward. I was going to say
I
bring it on, but
shall.
then that is the movie.
I present it to you. So one of the things I'll kind of couch it in this, like one of the things I wanted to talk about in moments where friendships fall apart are these sort of tiny slights where you feel left out or canceled on or just not seen. And so the example I'd like to chat through is Cassie David, Larry David's daughter,
Do you
shared
know I
these
once had
rules.
dinner with Larry David?
Was he a good middle?
I think a table of 5 or 6 of us
Okay.
at Gibson's. This is like 17 years ago. And I was a guest of Richard Roper, who's at the table, and we got to have
Great.
dinner with Larry David, and he was a good time.
Of course he was. His whole thing. He also, I think he's very good at boundaries and friendships too. For example, if you invite him to a wedding that requires any travel at all, he will say no. He will decline. Good for him. Okay, so you had dinner with Larry David. That's wonderful.
Sorry, that was a total aside, but I have very tenuous Hollywood connections at best. And I always think it's kind of funny that when I was in my 20s, I got to be at the table with Larry David. And when he was into the conversation, he was totally dialed in.
I bet.
And if he was bored, it was kind of evident.
Yeah. And that also fits. That makes perfect sense to me. Are you not entertained? No, I'm not entertained.
No,
I'm
not impolite, but just more or less engaged depending on where the conversation flowed.
This part of the conversation is not for me. It might be for you.
Don't you kind of wish you could be that person in the world that just sort of opted out when it didn't suit you?
Yeah, I think so. I experienced something recently where I chatted with this gentleman and I came on a little strong because I told you about this, Rachel, but he was one of the creators of this classic like hip hop magazine, the Source magazine.
Yes.
And I lost all my chill, all my cool. But I met him at an event that was hosted by Tim Hulskamp, like great host, wonderful human. And he was standing right next to me and mentioned that he was the creator of the Source. And I was like, I'm going to talk to you. You're going to be the first person I chat with. And I did talk to him, except it was a little too fangirl. And about 4 questions in, he was like, well, it was really nice meeting you. And I was like, oh, so this is over.
No.
Because I think what I gathered from at that moment, I went like, I feel like I asked you a lot of questions and you're used to asking other people questions. Is that right? And he went, yeah, that's kind of right. And I was like, okay, I understand that vibe. I maybe overwhelmed you a little bit. And then I moved on with my life, but he was a really cool cat. And he really did indulge my questions about the microphone rating system and the Source Awards and the questions that people ask him when they meet him.
If it makes you feel any better, I also met him at a Tim dinner and we were seated by each other. So he was kind of pinned.
Yeah.
I, made polite conversation for a minute and I said, okay, what really happened with Diddy? Which is a heavy question to ask somebody at a dinner party.
Diddy? Oh no.
Because he was name dropping all these people he knew during their heyday. And I said, well, if you were around, I mean, what's the deal?
No. Yeah.
We have not kept in touch. He was diplomatic. And I think he might have said there were a lot of rumors, but not everybody knew how deeply disturbing and inappropriate things were.
Oh boy, I thought you would have asked about Tupac.
I tried.
Yeah. He won't talk about that. He hasn't participated in any of the documentaries, but he is working on his own story, writing his own story, which I think will be good. And then maybe you participate. Well, Cassie David. Okay, so Cassie David released this sort of, I want to call it tongue-in-cheek. It's sort of a cute, satirical look at this big question. How do you befriend a friend of your friend? So you're sort of the third in a group. Cassie is looking at like, I know you, let's say you, Rachel, I know you. And Rachel, you have this really cool friend. I want to be friends with your friend. How do I navigate that without hurting your feelings? Here are her rules. I'm going to tell you them and I want to hear your reaction. So rule number 1 is include the friend who introduced you a few times before hanging out on your own.
Fair.
Rule number 2 is the hangout for the 2 new friends can only happen if the original friend has missed at least 2 of the in-person hangs in a row. And then rule number 3 is the first time you and the new friend hang out, you must take a selfie together and send it to the original friend.
Yes.
And the final rule number 4, is never post a photo of you and your friend's friends unless she knew you were together.
Ooh.
Rachel, what do you think of these rules?
I love that there's rules around this because it is
Uh-huh.
murky.
Uh-huh.
Um, I would say for the fourth one, there
Mm.
must be an expiration date where at some point you're able to be together without the other friend and
Yeah.
it's kosher. Um, I have an instance where I did connect two friends of mine and they
Uh-huh.
became much better friends.
Mhm.
And I've lost touch actually with one of
Uh-huh.
those friends.
Okay.
And they have vacationed together, the families have gotten close. And there were certainly some moments where I was like, I feel a bit kind of funny that like this other dynamic has really flourished and our original one kind of languished.
Mm.
But I just had to realize that not every friendship has like a duration. Like
Right.
maybe her and I went the distance and that's okay. We kind of lost proximity. We're at different life stages. She's moved, farther out of the city. And
Mhm.
so they don't at this point by any means send me a selfie when they're together. But I
Yeah.
also understand why they post photos together because they have an active friendship that has survived on.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I am really bad at girl rules. I think I've shared
Because they're unwritten and they're
they're
murky.
they're unwritten. It feels really like they don't necessarily have like a fairness to them. Is they're about emotion. And so I see validity in rules that enforce fairness. so, and so so I have a hard time with rules until I know like the what and the why. Like for example, I learned the hard way, like you can't wear your friend's perfume even if you like the way it smells. You
What?
can't buy the same perfume as your friend. There are
Wait,
signature. Yeah,
Sheena,
this,
this is not true. Out
this
of
is a
junior
thing.
high, yes, you can.
Okay, well, it was definitely a situation where it was my friend and roommate in college bought a new
What?
perfume. I loved it. I loved the smell of it. I bought it too. And it
Oh, you were
was
roommates. Maybe
we were
that's why.
roommates. Too close, I think. Too
Too
close. I
close.
think
Because
that,
I feel like if
yeah,
you and I wore the same perfume, that does not affect our friendship.
correct. Correct. But I think that there are like maybe like girl rules that are like emotionally murky that I don't necessarily understand. But what I think she's trying to enforce here is like the feeling of not being left out and
Yes.
the feeling of not being as good of friends as the new friends, which can be a bad feeling, especially if you thought you were better friends. So I understand the reason, but I also think like at a certain point you can say if we are evolved humans, doesn't mean we all are. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt our feelings. But at a certain point, you step away from a situation, you can be like, I'm so happy for them that they are friends. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt your feelings in the moment.
Yes. I want to dig into more of her rules for friendship because I
Yeah.
like that somebody's put thought around how to navigate a potentially tricky situation so that everybody feels better about it. Like friend etiquette, friend
Yeah.
etiquette.
Friendicate. Yes, of course.
Yes. Yes.
I wonder what she thinks about things like inviting a plus one to a dinner party.
I'm sure she has thoughts on that too.
I'm sure she has thoughts on that. Yeah. Rachel,
I was the
anything
plus one at her dad's dinner.
see, exactly. And I'm sure he loved it. I'm sure he did.
I maybe at parts, maybe not at others.
Yeah. When his eyes glazed over. Rachel, anything else you want to talk about when it comes to keeping friends, losing friends, and maintaining friendships?
You know what? Maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but I will leave by saying this. I think unless there's been a falling out, if the only reason you've lost touch with a friend is maybe distance or how much time has elapsed or you've been busy, I think you can always go back and resuscitate
Mhm.
the relationship. So if there's somebody you miss or you have a memory or you're feeling nostalgic about, I believe you can always say hi again and just touch base. And so ironically, as I was preparing for this podcast today and thinking about my bridesmaid list and the one bride that I do not talk to anymore, she popped up in my feed out of nowhere. And so I just at least, acknowledge that she'd been on a nice family vacation.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. Well, this has been another episode of The Connection Code, a podcast about friends, connections, work, and everything in between. This is a production by two friends, Rachel Gilman-Rischel and Jeana Anderson-Cohen. You can follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or hey, if you want to find us on Facebook, we're there too, using our full names. We love hearing from you. So if you liked anything we said today, or if you're like, hey, I have another friendship hurdle that we got to get over. Please send us a note. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you to Ben Cleaver for editing this podcast. And thanks to all of you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.